All right, welcome again, everybody, to the Three-Man Power Trip. This is the weekly podcast that we're doing right now with two of my buddies and myself, where we talk about the WWE and other wrestling companies out there as well, like TNA, Ring of Honor, New Japan, all that kind of stuff. But this past week, there was a great series of shows, particularly from the WWE. We had Raw on Monday and also SmackDown last night on Tuesday. And we're going to dive into some of the things that happened on that episode. But first, I'm going to say this is Kevin from the Three-Man Power Trip. I'm going to introduce my two buddies here. First, we'll start off with my friend Puvin.
Hello, this is Puvin speaking, the resident broadcast journalist of the Three-Man Power Trip. I'll try to keep things professional and keep these two in line, but you know how humanoids get, so...
First, I'm going to jump in and say, how dare you? Of the three, who's the only one without a journalism degree?
True. Got him.
I just want to throw that in real quick. But anyway, on to my.
Hold on. Just to be clear, if you two have journalism degrees, everyone can do it. So
wait. First of all, our program is a accredited one, sir. Get that
That's
straight.
right.
Accredited program.
It was the third one in the state. And
Exactly.
By the way, coming from Pennsylvania, that's where we got our degrees from. And I want to say it was the third one in the state. The other two were the University of Pennsylvania and Penn State. So, boom.
Drink it in, bro. Drink it in.
I stand by my point.
You know what my favorite thing to do is? Beat up Puvin. Anyway,
get back in the gym and clang and bang a little bit more, son. Just because you can grow a beard now doesn't mean you can step to me, buddy.
I gotcha. Well, I was going to say, to get back on track, I am Mike, the real-life unicorn, and I am enjoying this decade of decadence, sir.
I love when he calls himself the real-life unicorn. That's one of my favorite things ever. But anyway, okay, so like I said, there were two pretty good shows this past week. I happen to think one was better than the other, but we're going to be talking about pretty much the rundown from both of them. So we'll get into what we think of both shows. First, we're going to start off with Raw, because obviously that started out the week. And speaking of starting up, the first segment of the night, it belongs to the boss, Sasha Banks.
Yeah.
What do we think about it, fellas? How'd you feel?
I thought it was great. I was going to say, to me, it basically says, okay, we believe that you can start the show off strong, so we're going to give it to you. The only issue I see with that is, I know a lot of people were talking about, like her fumbling on some of the lines, but I was like, if you're not used to doing something, of course you're going to be nervous. So if you give the women the platform to start the show off, they won't be as nervous because they're used to it.
Absolutely. What about you, Puvin? What are you thinking, man?
I think it was a nice start to the show. I was a little surprised because Sasha is usually really good on the mic, and she got to it where she was doing okay, but at the beginning you could tell that she was a little bit nervous, and I don't know if they it's hard to tell depending on who's doing the promo, but I know for some folks they let them do bullet points, and for others they write it out, and it felt like she was trying to recite things a little bit too much. Once she was able to start getting digs in at people, she got comfortable, but at first I was a little nervous there. But it was a good start. It was a good segment. I liked the fact that they had 4 fresh people in the ring interacting with each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say the only issue I had with it, and that's putting my student affairs hat on. I was like, oh, here we go again with the influence of the patriarchy. Of course, the males have to come in and save the women, but other than that, I had no issue with it.
That's true, and I want to jump in real quick. And when Puvin was talking about her promo that she was cutting, and how she ended up stumbling on a few words, which isn't very Sasha Banks. It's also worth noting randomly that I think Seth Rollins actually had trouble during his promo later on in the night. And I was
going to say, everybody stumbled and said, it was terrible. Everybody had an issue. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just weird. As people that were normally lights out, they ended up fumbling over the words. We were like, okay, what's going on in Nashville, man? Or not Nashville, sorry, that's SmackDown.
But if you're going to say that, I think we have to give a huge shout-out to somebody who did a great job with his mic work on Monday, and that was Finn Balor. And obviously that's somebody who, obviously has an accent, but came across crystal clear and really delivered a message with intensity.
You just picking him because he didn't say arse, Pavin.
Like I said, bringing professionalism back to this broadcast.
No, it's so true. Again, we've talked about this before. We have a group text while we watch shows. And at one point, Pavin's like, "Thank God he didn't write arse, and he just said ass instead." It's like, you know why? Because Seamus says arse, and I don't want to do Seamus.
Well, no, to be clear, it has nothing to do with the fact that Seamus says it. I just think saying arse instead of ass is stupid. Like, I mean, I know that I actually am not really sure if that, like, if it's a dialect thing and people actually say arse in Ireland or Scotland, but like, it's just weird to me. Just say ass. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you, but yeah, I mean, that's going to end up going into our background in higher education, but yeah, there's some cultural stuff in there surrounding that, but I don't know. I like when Finn Balor, he doesn't say, I'm Finn Balor, he goes, "I'm Finn Balor!" And it's intense, and I love it. So that's my favorite part of the promo.
You will respect your soon-to-be Universal Champion, damn it. He will bring down the Guardians of the Galaxy upon you.
It's one of the Infinity Gems now.
Oh, to be clear, that belt is going to have all 6 Infinity Gems on it.
Oh God!
Yo, if I see Thanos floating anywhere near the arena, I'm out.
That's going to be the Survivor Series feud.
It's all leading up to the Survivor Series feud. All of the Marvel movies.
Just wait. Finn's going to have this glorious moment where he wins, and it's a proclamation, and then like the Titantron's going to start moving around the building is going to quake, and then you find out that Thanos is taking the place of Giant Gonzalez in this blood feud.
Wait, hold on. I'll say, yeah, we will never mention that name on this podcast again.
Can we at least talk about his bodysuit with the fur on the shoulders?
Please, let's move on. With
the
okay. Well, I just want to say, because I think I said it last week, but man, although, like you said, in patriarchy, like a guy comes out, starts picking on Sasha, and then Enzo has to come out and save her. I don't care, man. Jericho's hilarious. I'm on board. Keep doing it.
No.
But so I really like Jericho. I think he's at his best he's doing his best mic work of ever, and that's saying a lot because he's always been great. The one caveat I will put on Jericho is I don't get that excited to see him in the ring anymore. It's like the same old.
I don't care.
The drink it in man, like his whole rock star persona is amazing, but like I have to have he's got to have a dance partner for me to get excited. Like when it was AJ, I was excited. But if you were to put him in there with, like, Mark Henry, I'd be like, I don't want to see that.
Bathroom break.
Oh, yeah, speaking of that, Mark Henry faces off against Rusev on Monday Night Raw. Bringing back a wrestler, frankly, I don't think anyone really wanted to see again in Mark Henry. And it just ended up miserably, in my opinion. Like, I figured if you're going to have Mark Henry face off again, like, I didn't really think that he was going to beat Rusev. But just why do it?
Because it's to get Rusev over, man. Everybody, Mark Henry's established. They have this opportunity to have Rusev kind of destroy him. They also get the plug-in of the Olympics, which they always do around this time period. So, I mean, it makes sense. I think the biggest waste is that, I know that Mike likes to call himself the only unicorn, but Mark Henry's pretty good on the stick.
Oh, God.
Listen, I mean, the only thing that he brings anymore is pain to my ears, man.
It's sweat. That's what he brings. He brings
hold on. I defy you to watch his last title run and that promo he cut on Cena and not be impressed.
Is that when the crowd was shouting sexual chocolate? That one?
No, that was when the crowd was saying, "Thank you, Mark," and
they thought he was going to retire, yeah.
It was one of the best.
He got a mercy pop then. I don't want to hear that.
But he brought it out of them. The whole thing was a beautiful work.
Pavin. Even a broken clock is right once a day. You know what I'm saying? So, it's I'm not going for it. I
Yeah.
can't.
I will not praise Mark Henry, not anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm not going for it.
Although for real, when Mark Henry did start talking about he's got like juice to spread everywhere or something, I was like, oh my god, it's sexual chocolate again! I'm so excited. It's gonna be incredible. All right. I'm gonna get past that. Rusev ended up winning, like Pavan said. It's just to put Rusev over, so Rusev smash and all that kind of stuff. They're trying to undo all the damage from the League of Nations, and
God.
it's going. I guess it's going, but no one really cares at the moment. So fine. Now that we have this more depth of talent they can show, so Henry makes sense, I guess. But,
well, hold on, because are you glossing over the fact of where Rusev is headed? Because that might be the bigger headline.
okay, where is he headed in your mind, sir?
The guy who came out to start the feud with him, Mr. Reigns.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think you mean Mr. Mid-Card Reigns. That's what you should call him.
Mr. No, to be clear, Mr. I'm going to put over the mid-card title reigns. So we're headed for this feud, and I think that I don't see Rusev losing, and that's very clearly another person that he's being asked to put over, and so
absolutely, I don't see him losing either.
Yeah.
Which is, I just love it. It's a great time to be alive. I'm just gonna say that.
I think it's also fascinating that I'm not 100% sure, but I think that Rusev actually went to the school that Rikishi runs, if I'm remembering correctly. So there's a whole bunch of weird Uso Noi family tie-ins there. So,
ooh, that's a little odd.
I just don't want Rusev to come out in the thong that Rikishi was wearing because I'm not watching those matches.
Yo, if he comes out with Too Cool, I'm gonna lose it.
Oh God.
We're bringing back Lawler's kid, so enjoy. It's a new era. But yeah, like you said, with Reigns coming into the picture, that is fascinating. I do not see him losing. Or I do not see Rusev losing to him. So that again, Roman's punishment is just going to continue. The Roman Empire is falling apart.
Well, it's going to go strong until I would say at least like Survivor Series, maybe even past it. Yeah, I would say a good 6 months. He's getting punished.
But I think that the important thing to think about is like it's a punishment, but the role that he's filling is actually a role that they have needed for quite some time, which is kind of this entrance into the mid-card or into the main event. So you have somebody in the main event who can job to get people up there. And so yes, he's being punished, but he's going to make other people more important by association, which is what they need to do if they're creating new stars.
But at the same time, it ends up lessening him because Roman Reigns isn't, in my opinion. I mean, okay, I'm trying not to describe him too much, but Roman Reigns isn't a top-level talent that people are totally, like, he's totally established in people's minds because he was forced down so many people's throats in the title picture. So, like, I don't look at him the same way as John Cena.
But this is the thing that you're forgetting is John Cena was the exact same thing. That's how
John Cena won.
No, yes, but John Cena was forced down people's throats.
Well, I would say Super Cena was forced down John people's throats. Like the Doctor of Thugonomics and everything, all that grew organically. When he became Super Cena, that's when I got sick.
Yeah, but that's the same thing as Roman Reigns and the Shield getting over. Like up until the last couple of months of the Shield when people realized that Reigns was being positioned to be that guy, people liked him. And it's the same as Cena. There was an organic liking of him. But then when they started to book him and push him to the moon, that's when things got out of whack. So there's a lot of correlation or connection there to me personally.
I can't agree with that because I feel like Roman Reigns was pushed within a stable as a guy people would relate because he was the monster of the group and everything. But once they separated, they started to push real hard, and I don't think everyone was totally on board with it.
I would say for me, I think it's more similar to what they did with Batista, except Batista actually worked the first time and Roman did not.
Your response, Pavan.
I mean, to me, it's no different, but I understand where you're coming from. But the reality is for a period of time, both John Cena and Roman Reigns had audiences liking them and the minute they tried to put the machine behind them or overly kind of emphasize their abilities or make them into superheroes, that's when the rebuttal comes. And so I think that it's a very similar situation. I think that Cena obviously got, like, the difference is that they have more talent now. So Cena had the rocket strapped to him for about 8 years. Roman Reigns hasn't. But to say that he's not an established guy, I have a problem with, because he's a 3-time world champion. And, like, yes, the reigns were very short, but to me at this point he's made. And that's just where I am with it.
Okay. I don't want to make this linger on too much.
He has main evented 2 WrestleManias.
But no one wanted it.
Well, I was going to say...
Hold on. I'm good. Yeah, this is the thing. Nobody wanted it, but the last 2 WrestleManias have done the most viewership of any WrestleMania.
They're brilliant at marketing.
That's true, but that doesn't just... You can't dispute the numbers. Like, yes, WWE is its own brand, and, like, you're right that WrestleMania sells itself, but you cannot negate his abilities and his talents and, like, ignore the fact that he main evented 2 WrestleManias. Like, he's main evented more WrestleMania, I think, as many WrestleManias as Diesel, technically.
And does that not just spell bullcrap to you? Like, I mean, I'm not saying Diesel is a living legend, but that, like, too fast, he's, to me, I hope he's Orson Welles. I hope he peaks at a young age and never gets back up there. Because I never wanted him there.
No, hold on. This is what is wrong with, and I don't mean to, like, aim this at you, but this is what's wrong with wrestling fans right now, is we're so in the moment that we forget the fact that, yes, he has been around for 3 years, and yes, he got pushed to the main event very quickly. There's a whole history of wrestlers who've gotten put into the main event very quickly for their looks. That's not surprising. But the other thing is, to grade him on this 3 years is completely preposterous. So you're saying that his career is invalid because of 3 years, when the fact is, he could do amazing things. So we're grading a small moment. And so for you to automatically say his career is over, he has nothing to offer, is complete bull. We haven't seen it.
No, hold the phone. I didn't say that it's over. I'm saying I hope it's over. That's what I'm saying. I don't care if Roman Reigns were to go.
No, that is... And you want to talk about our careers, that is the most short-sighted viewership. Where is the development? Where is the opportunity for him to grow? He could be one of the best heels in the business if they let him and position him as such. You can't give up on a guy right now. Like, this is this is what drives me crazy about the internet right now, is, like, anytime they dabble with anything, it's like, let's jump to the farthest conclusion. Enzo comes out without Cass for 1 segment, and they're like, they're freaking, it's over, they're breaking them up. No, they're not. They're just, like, tag teams don't exist immediately attached to each other at all times. Like, breathe, people, breathe.
Well, I was getting ready to say, Puppet, I was going to say the issue I have is that, like, so Roman's done 3 WrestleManias, right? And Punk has done has main evented how many?
Yeah.
Right?
So this comes down to the how you define a main event. And
oh God, this is the same argument Punk made.
Well, no. Like, Punk is going to say that to main event means you go on last. I would argue that if you're in, like, the top 3 matches being advertised, you're technically in the main event. But regardless, you're right that he has formally main evented more WrestleManias.
That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, so like that's my issue. It's because, like, to me as a wrestling fan, and, like, not trying to get, like, you know, like the IWC, but as a wrestling fan, like, they can't expect me to believe that Roman Reigns has done more than Punk did, like, with that. I'm like, no. I mean, so.
Yeah. But this is the same thing that happened during the draft that I got all angry at. We have to stop treating wrestling like it's a sport. It is entertainment. And so, like, these weird parallels we draw in terms of, like, oh, the fact that you got this position means that you are better in some way. Like, yes, it means that you're supposed to be drawing more money, but, like, all of that stuff is things that we infer. It's not, like, it's the over-analysis of a product that is supposed to entertain us.
All right, listen, bro. I'm gonna jump in, and I'm gonna be calm, okay? And I have to say what you just said, sir, is hooey. The reason why I say this, like you said, if it were a sport, I would be able to live with Roman Reigns being in the spotlight so much because I feel as though he actually earned it. However, since this is entertainment and it is totally scripted by a bunch of people, I feel as though that almost nobody, well, not nobody, let's say 60% of the WWE universe, why not, did not want Roman Reigns in
He
the
was the
major.
number. He was the
How
number.
dare you, sir? I am not finished.
Excuse me. I was going to present some facts while you were just running through your diatribe of opinions.
Well, I'll take.
I didn't realize I was debating Mr. Trump.
Well, I'm sorry. Even Mr. Trump has the respect to let me finish. Okay.
No, he
So-
doesn't.
You're right about that.
Yeah.
So
Oh my God.
Okay, get to your non-existent point.
I'm getting there. I'm just trying to be calm. Okay. This is civil. Okay.
Excuse me.
All right.
I went to the Skip Bayless School of Journalism. I yell.
I went to the Woody
By the
Page.
way, where is Tim Tebow?
Oh God!
I mean-
No. All right. Okay. Look. We're not mentioning Tim Tebow on this broadcast again either. Enough of that, yo.
You and I both know that Kevin is now Tebowing in his apartment.
You know me all too well, my friend. But because it is scripted, and I think quite a bit of the universe didn't want it, and has been saying for a while they don't want Roman Reigns as the champion in particular, not necessarily the title picture, which I think that's actually true too, but the fact that it's been reinforced over and over again, I think is absurd. And just points out how ridiculously he's been put. Because like when you brought up he's been main eventing the last 2 WrestleManias and the numbers were great. I mean, how much of that has to do with Lesnar being back or Rollins just being an incredible heel and being a part of this match? Like, I'm not giving all the credit to Reigns. You can't convince me.
One, I'm not expecting. I'm not making the case that Reigns deserves all the credit. And truthfully, it's interesting that I am the one making this case because I'm not like the biggest supporter of Roman Reigns. But the one piece of information that I want to present that I think helps make my case, so to speak, is that during the Roman the Roman era, as they would call it, or even during the period of time when Cena was getting rebuked pretty hard by the audience, one of the things that has been standard across the board is number 1 in merchandise, John Cena. The number 2 guy in merchandise over the last 3 years, Roman Reigns. And so, yes, you were right that there's a portion of the audience that is rebelling or working against the top guys that the company pushes. But in my own opinion, in the way that the numbers seem to work out, that tends to be the vocal minority. And so, to me, that's the people who love wrestling, who love the product, and that's great. I love them for it. I obviously am one of them. But you're probably talking about 5 to 10% of your total audience and your market share. And so to book to them is what actually would kill you, because the other 90% who are more casual, who enjoy the entertainment aspect, will get lost if you only listen to that segment of the audience. And so what I'm saying is, if you look at it from a marketing standpoint, a business standpoint, pushing John Cena and Roman Reigns makes sense because they're your top merchandise sellers. Some of that you can argue that obviously they've been positioned as such, so it's kind of a chicken or egg thing. But in terms of looking at it financially, they're not really wrong to push Roman Reigns. Although I think that they're right in punishing him. And I know that we have other stuff to talk about, and this has been a whole side debate. But
no, it's worth it. We are going to establish whether or not Roman Reigns is the chump that I think he is.
I'm not a fan. I think he sucks. But anyway.
And that's I want to try to be in between Puvin and Mike when I lay it out calmly, in that I think
I'm just
Reigns
being a
can do
dick, but
things.
anyway.
Oh yeah, me too. But I want to say this to maybe not put finality on it, but I want to say this: if they decide to make Reigns a heel, legitimately a heel, I will be totally on board, and I will go you know what, put him in the main event. The problem is they put him as a face, and everyone hates it anyway, and they're just no, we don't care, we know better.
I want to make one last point, and this is not to dispute you, but this is, and I want them to turn Roman Reigns heel, but this is me actually working against what I want. The thing about it is, the minute that they turn him heel, the vocal minority who boos him will start to cheer him, thus confusing the audience even more. So, they have to be very strategic, and Well, the way that I see it happening is whenever they do the turn, he'll get a pop out of it, and then the next night he'll say something dastardly about the audience, and you kind of cut it down. But you have to be careful how you book that now because it's into like the heels.
That is true. I think well, I'm also a guy that likes villains more than I like heroes, so I'm a little biased, and I'm kind of
Typical Philadelphia fan.
Well, that's all we've got here in Philadelphia, unfortunately. So you got to cling on to what you know best.
You said it.
City of Champions over there. Okay, well, you know what? I'm gonna go from one titan of the industry to another one, which is Braun Strowman getting repackaged a little. Well, sort of. Not really, actually. He's just now he's got a new theme. He's got a little bit of a new look. He doesn't look like he's part of the Wyatt family anymore. They have him come out on Monday Night Raw and beat up a local, and they give the local the most disgustingly pitiful interview right before, basically saying, "So how scared are you right now?" And Strowman comes out and beats him in roughly a minute. I will say that I'm a big fan of the theme. I love that he just comes out and goes roar.
I was going to say, Kevin, he looks like the dude from Revenge of the Nerds.
He is Ogre.
That's exactly who his character is now. And he's just basically he's that guy mixed with Ryback, and he's just feasting on jobbers. Boring.
Nerds.
Yeah, pretty much that's who he is.
I think it's I've been saying that for ages. I think it's hilarious. Except Ogre never showed his nipples like that guy.
That's what.
But
that's
I have
the strongest
to admit,
in the world.
Yeah. Okay, I have to admit, I want to make fun of him, but I like what they're doing with. I like that he's disassociated. Although he's with the Wyatts, it didn't feel right. And now that he's on his own and he's going to be like a tank, I mean, it probably won't be that fun to watch, but it'd be cool if they put him up against another tank, like a Rusev or something. But that's probably a long ways off. So, what do you think, Pavan?
I mean, I think that they're doing the right thing with him. Honestly, one of the outcomes of the Monday Night Wars that's probably not for the best is that they had to get into this business of having competitive matches all of the time. And so we get a lot of matches very quickly that they could be saving and making special. And so I think having him squash some local performers, build up credibility, and do it in an entertaining way. I honestly, I have no problem with how they positioned him or Nia Jax, who they've been positioning very similarly in regards to coming in, squashing folks. I think it's been giving him credibility. I think that, Kevin, you're right that he will start to see higher level talent slowly, but I think that you'll see him start to run up against some tank folks, and they'll use some established folks first, and then start to set him loose on the main event scene later on down the line. But I have no problem with it.
I was going to say, here's the next person he needs to eat, Jinder Mahal, because no one cares that he returned. No one.
Oh no one cares at all. I was so upset to see that Heath Slater ended up getting knocked down by him. I was like, come on, the hottest free agent in pro sports?
Yeah.
You gotta do him dirty like that?
Well, I'll talk about Heath during the SmackDown stuff, but I'm glad that Jinder came back to star on Superstars, so...
Everybody needs that eighth man off the bench.
God.
All right, so Braun Strowman, I think it seems like we're pretty much in agreement that it's good what they're doing with him right now. This sort of repack. I mean, he was already kind of like a brute force guy anyway, but now I think he's looking a bit better in how they're setting him up. So it was good to have him come out and destroy somebody in a minute. Now I want to move on to the Balor face-off with Seth Rollins. This is something that obviously everybody's really excited about, because these are the two that are going to be competing for the Masters of the Universe title. The guy that has been pushed for a while as one of the top heels of the company, Rollins, and has done a great job, particularly since he got the Money in the Bank briefcase. And then you have Finn Balor, who comes up, one of the top draft picks of Raw, and just has been crushing it ever since his debut match. What do you think about how this confrontation went down, Mike?
I thought it was one of the definite high points of the show, because basically you have two of the well, it's basically like you have the guy who is like the man of the brand now, going up against the guy who's basically going to be the future of the brand. So like I thought it was like an awesome moment. It's kind of like if like let's say back when like Peyton when it was in his prime, it'd be like if you had Peyton in his prime versus like an Aaron Rodgers or something like in their prime, and they go like head to head in the Super Bowl. It was just a great moment.
I agree. Okay, well, Pavan, do you have the same perspective, or maybe even think something differently about it?
Well, this is just kind of like one of those random facts or nuances of this, but like we're calling Finn Balor the future, but he's older than Seth Rollins. So, and by like a couple of years, obviously it has to do with how they've been positioned and everything. But
Absolutely.
I was just kind of laughing at that.
No, I mean it is. That's what I used to think about as a Phillies fan when they're like, "Oh, we got the kid Ryan Howard." I was like, "The dude's like 30 years old when he got called up."
Well, but I think it speaks to, and I think you can make a comparison to maybe Randy Orton with Seth Rollins in that kind of a wrestling prodigy at a very young age, everything clicked. And so, I mean, I think that the segment worked really well. I think that they both got what they needed across. The other thing that I think is kind of fascinating is, like, obviously we all agreed that Monday Night Raw last week was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
One of the best Raws of the past several years. And Seth Rollins wasn't on the show at all. Like, he was in the first segment, and he was never seen again.
And that speaks incredible volumes to what exactly they did with the talent they have. And I'm actually really glad you brought that up, because Seth Rollins for me is one of the, I'll just make it easy, for the sake of conversation, and say he's like a top 5 reason for me to turn on the TV every week and watch this program.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's just the fact that he was somehow absent. That gives a lot of credit to the organization right now for what they're doing and positioning people so well.
Well, and the last thing I'll say, and I know we joked about the whole ass versus arse thing, but like I think that Finn Balor did just enough to give himself a kind of. They talk a lot about, if you ever watch Japanese wrestling, this whole notion of competitive fire is like a big thing in terms of like having like the fight inside them, and I think that his promo very much delivered this. I'm here to kick your ass, and you can say everything you want. And then even to have him get kind of the upper hand when it did come to physicality really set the stage. And I think the thing that's exciting about SummerSlam is that for the majority of the matches that are announced, we don't really know who's going to win.
No. I think that was the next thought in my head, which is to you guys, just, to pose it real quick, based off this week, I think there were a few championship or title match implications that possibly were jostled around a little bit to the point where I have no idea who's going to win some of the titles. And particularly I thought about Raw. I'm like, who would be in a better position to win between Rollins and Balor? And I'm not sure.
I think for the Masters of the Universe title, I think it's either He-Man or Skeletor. No, I think honestly though, I mean, like, yeah, I don't think going with either guy is a bad decision. If you go with Rollins is probably, in my opinion, the best heel we've had probably since Edge. And then I would say if you go with Balor, I think that makes a huge statement about like the new era. So I don't think there's a lose-lose situation. I mean, I think it's a win-win situation. And then I would say the only person I would say I know is going to win their matches. I don't see them taking the strap off of Sasha like at SummerSlam.
No.
So I would say that's one like we can say. I think she's good.
Well, yeah, I would agree with. I think that Sasha is safe. I'm really hoping that they actually put a stipulation on that match because I think it's high time that the women get. Well, but I want them to have some sort of stipulation that adds to the intensity of it. But going back to what you're saying, I agree that they can't go wrong. I would make the case for Finn to take the title, and this actually goes back to validating NXT, and this is all about the guy that Pavan wants to come up as soon as possible. When Shinsuke wins that title, I want it to mean something, and so if Finn automatically comes up to the main roster and is the top guy on Monday Night Raw, when you bring up the stars of NXT and those guys who've been positioned as such, we as fans then know, okay, they're not just coming into the mid-card.
Well, actually, You know, okay, I'm gonna say two different things. First thing is gonna invalidate a whole like 10-minute chunk of the program, but I agree. I'm probably more lean towards Balor taking the title because I mean, if they're pushing him to the moon already, just give him the title. Why not? But the reason why I say that is I just argued for like 10 minutes with Bubin about how Reigns did nothing to end up getting in the title picture, and he's just going to get it. Uh, but still, I do want to see that happen. Now, my second thought. Go ahead.
This is the fun thing about taking a critical look at the product and dissecting it is you find yourself making arguments using the same logic and then tearing down the same logic. But it's because wrestling has there's no canon. And so there's not something that you can like build yourself upon because everything contradicts each other, which is kind of fun. It's kind of endemic of society. That's my little.
And I agree with that. I'll add why I think just quickly saying this. I think the logic is for me why Balor getting up there. I mean, they've been like a lot of people know about Balor, even if they hadn't watched NXT. They've been like selling his merchandise for quite a while. His looks kind of iconic, and particularly the demon persona and everything. He clearly represents the future, like we've been talking about. So if he wins, it's really like, all right, new era, new future. So it's more symbolic, whereas I felt like Reigns wasn't really symbolic of anything other than just being a big Samoan dude. So that's why I think I'm more okay with Balor taking it than Reigns. But aside from that, like you were saying about the Shinsuke winning NXT title, if I'm reading you right, and Balor possibly winning the Universal title. So, like, what if, kind of like the Kevin Owens Cena thing, what if Shinsuke were to, like, come on to Raw with the NXT title and they did, like, a champion or a heavyweight champion versus heavyweight champion type match? NXT versus WWE.
Can't do
I
it.
think that would explode.
Why not?
So obviously I would love to see it. I love them both. Problem is, one way or another, you invalidate one of your two titles by doing it. Because I know that we're trying to say that we want the top NXT stars to come up, but that I also am saying that like Shinsuke will have like a 6-month run with that title, drop it and then come up, or do the kind of double duty thing. But to have a title that you're trying to establish as the top title on Raw, I think that you have to be very careful about how you would position the NXT title because like you would almost need Balor to go over very strongly, or like you position yourself in very odd ways then.
What if now? Okay, then here's my question. Then, what if we modify it and we end up making it into a scenario kind of like Jericho becoming undisputed champion, and there was a funky way in which they won? Now, I know you wouldn't want Nakamura to be the guy that would be the benefactor because you'd want him to win legitimately. But what if there was a funky way he won it? Do you think that possibly works?
I mean, I think you can, but to me, I think that you're better off waiting to have matchups like that on the main roster and not doing the simultaneous thing. The other thing is, and like this is just another piece of this, is Nakamura has yet to lose. And so, like...
King of Strong style, man.
There's a whole thing there about, like, if you bring him up to the main roster, like, eventually everybody has to lose. And so if you start dabbling with this NXT crossover with him, you have to be very careful.
No, yeah. I would agree with that. Like you said in one of our previous podcasts, like they have to protect Nakamura when he comes up. Like I think a good way to do that is to start him off like slowly, because I know that Kanitsa, that is a devastating finisher. So like they have to be able to make sure that its impact is really sold.
I mean, if I was the one to book it, what I would do is I'd have the Royal Rumble be his big coming out party. Not necessarily. I mean, he could win it. That's me like hot shot booking it, so to speak. But have him make a big impact on the Royal Rumble. Have his first real pay-per-view match with a build be at WrestleMania, because that is a smart audience. And so, like, I don't want to transition too much into the SmackDown stuff. There's been some issues with NXT talents not getting great reactions with main roster audiences. And so if you put him with 100,000 people people coming in from all over the world, WWE diehard audiences, you're going to get a reaction, and by association, other people will figure out that he's great. Just like AJ Styles was validated by the Royal Rumble entrance, Shinsuke will get the same type of reaction, and you're off to the races and have positioned him as such.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, fair. I just wanted to float out that scenario because it was intriguing to me in that we haven't really seen that happen. Like, we had Kevin Owens come out with the title and beat Cena on Raw, but he didn't take the U.S. title from him. So I was like, what if, world shocking moment, it happens?
I mean, I would love for him to get to the main roster, but because they didn't do it, because they didn't pull the trigger yet, they have to wait. Because otherwise it's just, there's too much going on.
I'd prefer they wait, because they've taken so much talent from NXT. I think Shinsuke needs to chill. But I am very excited when he does come up.
Well, and this might be something we talk about at the end, but there's a lot of talent headed NXT's way.
There's a lot of male talent.
Yeah, the females are depleted.
Well, but that's not fair. But this is once again us dissecting this hierarchy or the patriarchy.
Oh my gosh.
The male talent gets more of the attention on the indie scene. So there's talented females that might be on the way to NXT. We just know less about them.
Oh no! Like we said, we can get into this later. I mean, there's quite a few indie female wrestlers that have done 1 or 2 matches, and I'm like, I don't understand why they're not signed because outside of 3 female wrestlers, that's pretty much it. But anyway,
it's coming. There'll be an influx, I guarantee it.
All right. So we're just gonna move to the last part of Monday Night Raw because we actually used most of the show just on Raw. But I actually think the better show is the one we're gonna talk about next.
I was going to say, just like creative, bro. We spent all time on Raw.
Yeah, but SmackDown.
Just like creative, just like creative, we spent too much time on Roman Reigns.
Exactly.
Anyway,
exactly.
Sorry, I had to throw that in there. All right, so actually, one of the biggest parts of the night, although for me it could be simplified pretty easily talking about it, was we had Brock Lesnar appear on Monday Night Raw, in addition to Paul Heyman, who we weren't sure if he was going to appear because his contract was actually up, but also appeared on there. You know, they tried to cut a promo, do this whole promote the Randy Orton versus Lesnar scenario, but of course Randy Orton is on SmackDown, so we're now planning on seeing him, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the RKO on the Beast invading Monday Night Raw. What were your reactions to this, Pavan?
I was very happy with it. I thought that it didn't drag on, and it got to what it needed to very quickly. Honestly, if I could take what they did on Raw and SmackDown and erase Randy Orton's matches thus far, I think that they would have built it perfectly, and I don't mean to be rude in terms of how I'm saying that. I genuinely enjoy Randy Orton's wrestling, but him wrestling Fandango and selling a little that does nothing. You do not. If anything, he should be going into in matches and mauling people to prepare. I don't think that there's any way that Randy Orton is going to win this match by how he's positioned. I think he's going to be booked to lose. I don't think that he's going to win the match, period.
That's what it looks like. I mean, if he is selling to Fandango, that clearly means you're not tough enough to deal with Lesnar.
And so what I would have much rather had them do is, I'm even okay with keeping the Chris Jericho interview. I know that we went back and forth about whether or not that was a good segment, but a bunch of video packages hyping it up and having these kind of sneak attacks and promo packages building it, I actually almost think that his wrestling has been a detractor to be wanting to see this match. But the segment itself, I thought, was done pretty well and was happy with it.
Yeah. What about you, Mike? What are you thinking?
I'm thinking they have for me outside of just doing a RKO, they really haven't positioned Randy as a legit threat. If anything, so when they had him battle the Miz, if anything, I think it did more of hurting Miz's character than less of building up Randy's character as a legitimate threat. So I don't know what they're gonna do. Maybe more of these sneak attacks to try to build it up, but they have to make Orton come across as okay, he's a legitimate threat. He can take Lesnar out because if not, it's just gonna be Suplex City, bitch.
That's right. It's otherwise I don't see this working out. I guess you could say Pavin was saying that in his actual wrestling, it's not making him seem like he's a legitimate contender
No.
against Lesnar. I mean, this is what I talked about last podcast, is you have Orton who's coming back and getting a big push, which he should. He's a top talent. He's been established forever. And then you have Lesnar, who just legitimately beat the hell out of somebody on UFC, and he never really lost anyway before he left for the UFC this time. So who was going to win? And now it's looking like it's pretty clear that he's going to end up winning that. And I think they're making it seem like the only way Orton has a shot against Lesnar is if he does sneak attacks and sneaky tactics. And I don't like that. It's weaselly for a guy that he's not really that anymore. He's supposed to be this dangerous Viper. And now it's like he's doing like Rollins heel tactic stuff that he did. And I don't know if I like it very much.
I will say, and this is like from a chain wrestling kind of point of view,
sure.
One thing that I hope to see in this match, and I don't know how they can do it, is I would love to see Orton try to go for the RKO and Lesnar counter some way, getting him into the Kimura. Like, I don't know how you could physically do it, but I think it would make for an awesome spot.
I wouldn't mind seeing that in particular. I mean, everything's always about Suplex City and F5, so it'd be cool if they could do a good spot with the Kimura. All right, so you know what? We're gonna get out of the Raw realm over here, and instead we're gonna go to SmackDown, because I mentioned at the beginning of the show that I think that there's one show that was better than the other. Last week, Raw was clearly the winner. This week, SmackDown is clearly the winner for me. What do you think, fellas?
Team Blue with the win.
Yeah, I was ready to say SmackDown's was the better show this week, but it had some issues, and man, were they issues.
What are you talking about?
Okay, well, again, like I don't know what point we were going to discuss it, but for me,
go ahead,
the biggest issue again is I feel like the problem with women's wrestling that we had experienced before just got moved to SmackDown. So we had So we had two matches that were booked, and we got 0 minutes of women wrestling on SmackDown. We still don't know. I was going to say, I'm going on a rant now. We still don't know what the hell that was with Ava Marie.
Yo, I think we may have lost Mike there for a second. I think legitimately that Eva Marie thing, I've tried looking up after the show last night. I am getting to the point where I genuinely think that she was supposed to stop the match before it started to gain heat. And I think she kind of botched it because it didn't play right or it didn't go over. I mean, if she really hurt herself, okay, but I feel like too much attention was drawn to it for it to have actually happened. What do you think, Pavan?
You are correct, sir. And so while I understand where Mike's coming from and agree with him to a certain point that in-ring action for the women is very important in terms of establishing them and making sure that they're seen on the same level as the male superstars as they've tried to work through this women's revolution is important. But the thing that I was very happy about is for the lack of wrestling, we had storyline movement. We had the ability of stories being told. And so you immediately saw, yes, we didn't get Carmella and Natalya in a match, but we immediately started to realize that this is going to be a feud and it's going to be brutal in terms of Natalya attacking. Obviously, we don't know the story that's being told with Eva Marie just yet, but I think that there is a story there. And so I actually was like, top to bottom, I really didn't have many issues with SmackDown because you at least still had storyline progression.
You sure did, and I think I was going to dive into some of the male feuds that were going on, but I'm just going to throw in real quick. I mean, I was very disappointed with so far 2 appearances by Carmella. It seems like they're really trying to get, she's someone that you figure is going to be super over based off her experience in NXT, and just the crowds have been dead. They've been dead for her. Well, and I just feel so bad.
This is again
connected to her. That's why.
Wait, say that again, Mike.
They don't feel any type of connection to her because either they haven't watched NXT and seen her with Enzo and Cass, or like I'm going to say like her gimmick. Okay, she's like the Staten Island girl, like that really doesn't connect with people who aren't from New York. You know what I'm saying? No, if it was the Jersey Shore like time or era, okay, I like that might connect, but like right now, like people are gonna be like, huh?
Now, just to jump in, do you think it was a mistake separating Carmella from Enzo and Cass then?
No.
Okay, why, Pavan?
So I will argue that I think that Mike is correct in regards to kind of the reaction to her, but I think that she has enough potential to where putting her with Enzo and Cass for a long period of time would ultimately stifle her ability to get over as like her own talent. And so I think that keeping her separate was the right thing. What I will argue is that I think that the soul, not the soul, but one of the main reasons why she came up to the main roster is because they saw the immediate impact that Enzo and Cass had and the immediate reaction. And so because she was associated, I think she ended up coming up, and they might have been a little too
It was so much too
adventurous.
early. Yeah.
They thought that the reaction would follow her of the Enzo and Cass, and she's establishing herself as her own character, and so she didn't get the reaction. I will say give her a couple of, and this goes with all the NXT talents, give them a couple of weeks, and then you will start to see them create and get comfortable. And so her reaction this week was slightly better than last week, and so I think that you're going to continue to see those grow as time goes on.
I think something.
Go ahead, bud.
I was going to say, yeah. Sorry, Kevin. I think something that will actually help the fans connect with Carmella is if they actually see her wrestle. So we've seen 2 weeks where she hasn't wrestled. So like I told you, you guys in the group chat, like she has a sick finisher. Okay, I really like it, but no one's seen it because she hasn't wrestled. So I think again, you have to you have to give them like something. I'm not like a Carmella #1 fan, but like she has the potential to go. So like I said, she's not Trish Stratus, but she's definitely not Lana or Kelly Kelly. Like she has the ability to go. I don't really see them like kind of helping her out with it. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm. I mean, definitely, if you are a performer, you got to actually be able to perform, and she hasn't been given the opportunity yet. So you're right on that. But I think it's worth me asking if it was a mistake, regardless, because I'm just thinking of so many, at least over female wrestlers that started out either on the side of somebody and then ended up breaking out as an individual, and I think maybe Carmella should have done that, because I mean her character is clearly extremely associated with Enzo and Cass's type of character still, so I don't know, it could have been botched, but I do want to move on from that in particular because there's a lot of great stuff that went on throughout the night.
Can I touch on one theme that has been running through the show though?
Okay, why not?
Okay, we keep going back to patriarchy, and so the idea that we need to put a female wrestler with the men first to get a rub, once again, old school thinking in terms of women can't get over by themselves, and so hopefully this is some of the logic they're moving away from, but another thing to look at as we dissect it all.
Well, see, I disagree with that because I'm not necessarily trying to say that.
Well, no, I wasn't saying that you were making that case, but I'm saying historically that has actually been an argument that's been used, and so I think it's important that we at least unpack that.
Sure, and I'll just say, just to clarify, for everyone out there, what I'm trying to say is not that. What I'm saying is I'm thinking of almost Enzo, Cass, and Carmella as, like, let's say a stable, okay? For me, it's like calling up the Wyatts originally, but putting, like, Luke Harper on the other brand, and then Bray and Eric Rowan together. So, like, but then Luke Harper is there to float. That's kind of what I mean.
And I know that that's not where you were taking it, but I think that once we would do ourselves a disservice to not name the dynamics there, and so I think it was worth talking about. I don't think we need to belabor the point or anything because we kind of made we kind of touched on the talking points, but I just thought it was important to name.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Well, you know what? Let's go to some lower stuff, then we get to the bigger things as we get closer to wrapping up. We talked about the number one contendership for the Intercontinental title, which the people who were up for it, I don't know. I didn't really care all that much. I really didn't. And then ends up coming out the winner was Apollo Crews, which is
Apollo Creed, bro. He's back from the dead.
Oh my gosh! Is there any chance that Apollo Crews ends up beating the Miz?
Maybe, but like again, like they don't like Apollo Crews has nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't have. There's been no character development. There's like been nothing. Honestly, I think he should probably run with the Apollo Creed because at least people know something about that.
Well, so I don't necessarily. I think that he eventually gets the title. I think the thing that I'm happy about is I think that Miz is the right guy to put him with, because I think that there's an ability for him to, like, Miz can bring a character out. He is such an overheel. He has such a command of his promo work and all the he has all the tools of a great wrestler, and so I think that by putting Cruz with him, they're setting the stage for the opportunity for Cruz to finally crack this shell and really kind of develop into someone. But I think
because he needs something.
Well, but there's not enough time between now and SummerSlam, and that's why I think that it might come at the pay-per-view that comes next. Yeah. The other thing that I have this weird feeling about is it wouldn't surprise me if Baron Corbin gets entered into this too, with the way that the ending took place.
Yeah.
And I think that they're high on Corbin, and Corbin's another guy who needs to establish his character a bit more. And so if they can do that in this weird kind of three-way feud dynamic, I'd be okay with it.
Well, I was going to say, because all we know about Baron Corbin, well, I was just saying, all the average fan probably would know about Baron Corbin is, like they said, oh, he's a lone wolf. Well, I would be like, okay, so what? What does that mean? So he really doesn't have too much like anything. I think it's kind of like, hey, so we have three guys with three different styles. Let's throw them in the ring and try to make like the best of that, which will probably end up being a good match. But again, they need a little bit more story time development, and probably like you were saying, which is a great point. They really don't have that time, so hopefully they can do something. I think the next pay-per-view is Backlash for SmackDown, so hopefully they can do something by then. They have to do something.
And we'll touch upon this more in like moments, but the character that they are going to spend the next couple of weeks really developing and making credible is Ziggler, and he's going to get the time. And so I know Kevin is smiling giddily.
I really am.
There. But because of the fact that they have to position Ziggler in that way, Cruz is not going to get the time he needs. He's not going to have that plethora of time. But there's some things that they can do. But Ziggler's the guy they have to make right now.
Oh, absolutely! I am so happy because I have to admit I missed the first part of the show when Ziggler cut the promo of his life.
100%. I was like, wow.
I heard these two talking about it. I was like, something good is happening with Ziggler. It's been like a year.
Well, but I think that's and I don't mean to cut off the Ziggler steam, so I'll let you go on in a second. But
you're killing me, Puffin. You're killing me.
If we're comparing the two shows, I think the thing that made SmackDown better was the promo storytelling, and Raw did not have it.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. Whereas,
I was going to say, go ahead, Kevin.
No, you go ahead, Mike. How about you go?
All right. I was going to say I want to add to the Ziggler theme too. The thing that really made the promo for me was the passion behind it. When he said, "I'm the guy that's been ignored, told I wasn't good enough for the last 7 years. That's how good I am. I am that damn good." I was like, "Oh my God."
That's right. I believed it. I believed it for a change.
I know. I was like, I didn't know you had it in you.
You know what made it for me? Okay, other than the passion behind it, what made it for me was like, you say you clawed from the bottom? I started out as a male cheerleader.
That was great. That was absolutely great.
That's what I love so much in the interplay between these two. Is that there were jabs, genuine jabs that we all think about as fans, thrown back and forth at one another. And I was like, you know what? There's not I can't say this is just a script because it's totally real too. At the same there's no arguing it.
Well, and I think that if you're going to differentiate between the two brands in any way, that's my sense where I think that they want to go with SmackDown is that they want. Well, not the promos, but they want to connect a little bit more with what the fans are saying and what the fans want. Like, if you look at their roster, a lot of guys who are very over with the fans but maybe haven't gotten the attention or the love that they need. Ziggler being a classic point, and, I know...
Ryder?
Ryder is another example. Ziggler being, I think, the marquee kind of example. And I know a couple of weeks ago when we did our little mini draft, I went on a rant about how Ziggler had just been there but didn't do enough to stay there. If he can keep this up, he deserves to be where he is. I think that he did a great job of storytelling, and even the match that came afterwards and the firing up and all of it, he's being positioned in the right way. So yeah, I mean, nothing but love to it.
That's
so what you're saying is, I'm gonna say what you're saying, Puffin, is now because you said that Ziggler will want to do the show.
I never. To be clear, I never insulted Ziggler.
Pause. He was stopped right in his tracks trying to answer.
No. Honestly, it's because I stumbled over a word. But the thing is, I never disliked Ziggler. It's more there are wrestlers that I really enjoy who I don't think deserve to be in the main event. And so the case that I was making when we talked about it was that Ziggler is great, but he was missing that fire, that edge, that there's a point where, and I know that we kind of jokingly talked about my love of Shawn Michaels last week. There's the credibility of Shawn Michaels. He's a small guy. He can do all the jumping around, but there's that moment where the fiery passion comes on that you believe that this guy who is smaller has this edge, this drive, this willingness to win. And Ziggler is finally showing that. And I'm not necessarily saying in a Shawn Michaels carbon copy, anything like that. I think he's doing it in his own way. But he's finally showing that last edge. Ziggler can do everything, but the lacking piece was that ability to connect. That I'm gonna take it that much farther. I'm gonna believe in myself. I'm gonna show you why I'm the show off. I'm gonna show you why you should believe in me in the last 3 minutes of a match. And that is the story he is now telling. And if he can continue to tell that story, he will continue to main event SmackDown.
And I agree, and I think that is a great Dolph Ziggler, up until about, 5 months ago, something like that, I felt as though he lost any identity that he really had as a unique performer, because I feel as though he was trying to copy Shawn Michaels, truthfully, in many different ways. I was upset that the zigzag was not really being used, and he was super kicking all the time, stuff like that. Plus, I don't think he's that great on the mic. He sells way too much that he just looked weak. He would lose all the time. So I stopped being a big Dolph Ziggler fan. And he's a face during this time, and people still loved him, like myself. But I was concerned at that point, genuinely, that there is no way that he as a face could get himself to the point where he could be anywhere near a title picture. Because I don't think you could tell a story with that other than internet fans loving him. And it looks like it's getting to the point where he can actually do it. And that promo made me think differently. Before, I loved him as heel Ziggler because I thought he was great being this pompous jerk coming out with Big E and AJ and stuff. But that was just incredible to me. And what's fascinating is Ziggler was a part of how we talked about how Raw was not a train wreck. I'm being dramatic, but I'm going to use the word anyway. Is train wreck in their stars cutting promos as opposed to SmackDown where everyone hit it out of the goddamn park. Part of my language. Mm-hmm. And Ziggler was a huge part of that, and I didn't see that coming. And that was just, I don't know, it was magic.
Well, I think, though, two things. One, you can't blame Ziggler about the super kick thing, because I feel like every wrestler on the roster throws a super kick now.
Yeah, but Ziggler, it's clearly a signature.
No, I agree, you're right, but I think that the super kick has become this move that everybody wants to do. But going back to it, I think that one of the things that's unfair, and I think that both Ziggler and AJ get this kind of vile towards them, is that, everyone seems to believe that they can't cut a promo, which isn't true. I think that if you were to rank their abilities, you would say that their in-ring skills outpace their ability to work the mic. But both of them are serviceable and can do great things on the mic, and both of them showed it on Tuesday. And so I think that it's more so that people are finally starting to realize that when given the opportunity, Ziggler can connect. Same with AJ, which we'll talk about in a second. But, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think another reason why Ziggler's actually getting the push he is, and this is actually somewhat disgusting to me, is because Cleveland won in the finals. I think they're trying to push Cleveland down our throat.
Oh, if only we would be so lucky.
You know, I gotta say, part of the reason why I didn't see this Ziggler thing ever happening anytime soon is because they had him on Democratic and Republican National Convention duty. So I was like, all right, well, he's not about to be in the title picture, but let's take a breath and say this: Dolph Ziggler is the #1 contender for the WWE Championship.
Yeah.
When was the last time that could be said?
Well, I was going to say, bro, when was the last time you could say the Cleveland Cavaliers won a championship? It's crazy.
It's a topsy-turvy world we're living in.
Okay, Mr. Pittsburgh has to run his mouth over there.
Oh my God! Seriously, this guy, we trashed him for ages in group text for talking about his rings. The Steelers fan.
I'm just saying, no one saw Cleveland beating Golden State. No one saw Dolph Ziggler where he's at.
Yeah, just saying. The true fans of the Cavs saw it coming. But we're going to move off this subject because LeBron James' greatness is what it is. And I don't care where Kevin Durant goes or whatever super team there is, the Cavs will be in the finals ready to face whoever's there. That being said,
exactly.
The only other piece that I think that we do need to give some credit where credit is due for is to Dean Ambrose, because part of the reason why Ziggler is able to fire up and cut that promo is that
because he fired him up. Yeah.
Dean Ambrose came across as a cocky, still a face, but like that edge, that guy who's like, I don't really care what you have to say because everything about your history says I got nothing to be worried about. You're going to put on a great show. The fans are going to be happy. And then I'm going to drop you with the dirty deeds. And that set it up. And so Ziggler by far knocked it out of the park. But Ambrose clearly lobbed a pitch for him served up and ready to go. So great that even a freaking Pittsburgh Pirate could hit it out of the park.
Yeah.
I was going to say the Pirates have championships, Puffin. What do the Indians have?
Just wait till the end of this season and you'll find out.
A lot of angry letters written to them.
And actually, the Indians do have several World Series titles.
I mean, the Phillies have some.
Okay.
Anyway.
We're talking about Midwestern powers here, Kevin, not Eastern cities that are floating on the abyss of great times past.
Just you wait. In another half decade, you all will be bowing down to Ben Franklin.
Let me just tell you, the next time that Philadelphia will have a renaissance in sports is during the next Apollo Creed film. The last great thing to come out of Philadelphia.
Yo, I'm telling you, you're going to eat those words. We're doing this podcast in 4 years. Flyers will have been Stanley Cup champions already. Sixers, Joel Embiid will be reigning MVP of the NBA.
And your credibility is now shot.
Aren't you the guy
Joel, hold on, the Sixers he won't even be on the team in 4 years. They will have traded him in 3 months.
Yo, they're doing great things with bionic legs these days. Don't you say that.
Well, then Greg Oden's got a lot to worry about.
Oh, wow. Oh, God.
How dare you mention that name on this podcast? Anyway. Anyway.
We are spiraling out of control.
Listen, I blame y'all. You don't attack Philly, okay? Anyway.
Stop bringing it up!
Oh, God.
Every time I try to move on, I get cut off. All right. Anyway, folks, I'm gonna put some finality on that whole Ziggler thing in a way, which is, I think, yes, Ambrose did a great job at setting Ziggler up because now Ziggler's doing this whole underdog type thing, which I think works a lot for him. I mean, they touched on it a little while in SummerSlam, I think, or Survivor Series like 2 years ago, something like that, where he had a great showing, but then they did nothing with it. So I hope they recall that a little bit. It looks like they're definitely doing much better. Now, at the end of that whole thing, Ambrose being cocky, great, leaves. Wyatt pops out of nowhere, ends up saying, how about, I fight you for your #1 contendership, and Ziggler being an idiot, of course, proposes this, and they go and actually have that match later on the night, which, for me, I mean, I guess it follows the storyline, because Wyatt had pretty much most of the offense. And Ziggler looked fairly limp like he does most of the time in matches these days. And he did end up getting the win, which is great. I didn't think you could take the contendership away from him. If they did, I think that was a massive mistake. I'm okay with Wyatt losing because he's a legitimate threat. He he does in a way personify fear in the WWE. So I think that's good for Ziggler to win, to keep building him up against Ambrose. But are either of you surprised that Ziggler kept it, or do you think that was the right move to make?
It was definitely the right move to make because again, if you want to push Ziggler, to me, it'll mean more to me. In my opinion, it'll mean more if Ziggler beats Ambrose straight out, versus if it were in a triple threat or something like that, because it's more okay, all the attention's on him versus Ambrose versus okay, so who's gonna do the crazy spot here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it was the right decision. I know that I was kind of joking about the idea of it becoming a triple threat, and that was more so me just poking at people when I did that. But the reality is, I think that they positioned it really well. I think the story, I think that it is a common storyline within wrestling, although logically sometimes has some flaws where the good guy's attacked and risks everything for no reason. It's a dumb reason for him to put up the title shot, but he does the right thing. It validates him. I think I'm not sure who's going to win the match. I still think that Ambrose should hold on to the title at SummerSlam, but I think that the long game, we think a little bit too short term in regards to titles sometimes, and that immediately validating a run. I think the long game is establishing Ziggler as a main eventer, and so I don't necessarily think he wins the title immediately, but I think down the road, because of this setup, he's able to hang with the main eventers in matches with AJ Styles and some other folks, and eventually he does get the title. I don't necessarily know if it immediately happens, but the long game should be about establishing him as a guy who's regularly on the top part of the show.
And I really think that would be wise, because I don't think you can take, or you should take the title away from Ambrose either. But if Ziggler were to lose the first matchup against Ambrose, let's say there's 2 or 3, whatever it is, it still fits in with the storyline, this underdog. I mean, we reference as a joke with Apollo Crews as Apollo Creed. I mean, just let the Rocky franchise, Rocky lost the first match, but you still end up loving him anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, honestly, there's a lot of different paths they could take with the story, but I would actually almost love to see something where, let's say they do get 3 matches out of this at pay-per-views, where at the third pay-per-view, Ziggler ends up winning, but he goes heel in doing so. And
I'd love that.
But not even not like typical Ziggler, I'm the show-off, look at me, I'm talking deep, dark, nobody thought I could do this. I'm going to prove it. I'm going to go crazy and just violent. Exactly. Go to a really deep, dark place with an edge. He's never gone there, and I think that that's a great place for him to be.
Well, I was going to say, I think a good way to do that is since, he always gets those Michaels comparisons. Instead of going to the Ambrose Asylum, maybe we should go back to the Brutus's barbershop and throw him through the glass.
Go to the Heartbreak Hotel.
Yeah, I was thinking about the hotel myself.
I would love that. That'd be great.
That's true. What would they everybody gets the weird named talking segment. What would Dolph Ziggler's be?
The Ziggler Zone.
Yeah,
I would say no. Ziggles and giggles.
He's a heel, damn it.
Yeah, there you go, the Ziggler Zone. There it is. I cannot.
I'm brilliant.
Self-proclaimed.
Well, everybody's got to have their delusions, right? Okay, so it looks like there's a good setup for that. Everyone's willing to buy into. And it looks like it actually makes sense. So they're not just throwing two people we happen to like. It actually is making sense, the build-up they're doing. And it wouldn't if Ambrose wasn't being the cocky guy that he was, but him being a little bit cockier actually makes me buy into the two sides of it rather than, well, we just threw two names together. So I'm a big fan of that. But, we're going to actually go into the next... we'll cut into some lower things of the night before we get into one of the other bigger ones. We already talked about Eva Marie and her odd match, so we're just going to get out of there, okay? The first appearance of the future of the tag team division, American Alpha. They're winning it to the
Ready Mulligan table, bro.
Yeah, you ready? Now, what do we think from that? They ended up winning. They beat the Vaudevillains, shocker. But how do you think that went down? How do you think their appearance was?
All right. So, all right, for me, like I think that was, I think like they did a good job of like showcasing to like let's say people who aren't familiar with American Alpha. Okay, like this is what like this team can do. Specifically, the people who are watching the broadcast, I think they got great help from Morrow, who compared them to the Rockers and Steiner brothers, which is great praise. However, I was disappointed, as Puffin was saying when they first came out. I thought that reaction was going to be a little bit bigger than it was, particularly because like it was like, hey, American Alpha is debuting next week, so like they came out and it wasn't flat, but it was just kind of like, yay, it's American Alpha, not like, oh my God, yes, it's here. So that part to me was a little disappointing.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Puffin?
I agree with Mike for the most part. I think that at the beginning it was a little flat, but I thought that the match was really good. I am continually impressed by Jason Jordan's development. And that minute where he started to have fun and you could really see it, I thought was just incredible. And so he pulled down the singlet straps and kind of was, sticking his tongue out and having a good time, and like you could tell it was flowing for him. And so I think it's a great start. I think that they were positioned well. I wouldn't have actually been opposed to them having a job or two match, like squash matches. I think that they're kind of keeping that solely for Raw right now. But I think that you got to position them well the next couple of weeks. I think the danger is you only have so many tag teams on SmackDown, so you have to watch how you do it. But I thought they came out looking good.
No, I absolutely agree with that. You were talking about with Carmella earlier. I mean, although it was a little flat, you got to see them in the ring, and clearly there's a lot of talent there that people are going to totally buy into. They were given a shot where Carmella wasn't.
I'll say, yeah. Now, this is probably way too early to be, like discussing this. But I think, like Puffin was saying, like with the development of Jason Jordan, it gives me some like a little glimmer of hope that one day he might be the next African American champ, because we know unless your name is Dwayne The Rock Johnson, you ain't seeing that belt.
I would argue that Cruz has a higher fighting chance at it, but
I don't know, man. Like I don't know.
Oh, Cruz ain't got a shot.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know about that.
I disagree.
I don't know about that.
Yo, I'm going with Titus O'Neil before I'm going with Cruz.
I don't even feel like I need to make that argument, so I'm just going to say that.
Yo, there's been a lot of bold statements said tonight, and I've been mocked quite a bit for my predictions in the future. We're just going to look back at 4 years, this podcast, and I'm going to show you all the times that you were wrong, okay? So for right now, try to indulge my ridiculousness.
I look forward to that 30 to 60 seconds in 4 years.
Yes. Oh gosh, but yeah, to get us back on track, like Papa was saying, like I think it would have made more sense to have like a team like the Dudleys on SmackDown who could actually kind of help American Alpha with their development in the tag teams, because like again, like they're still like a young tag team. So I think also like Daniel Bryan was saying that on one interview, I think getting some belts or something can help the division, but again, I think they need some depth. Now, I think at some point the Revival is probably going to come up too, and I think they need to go to SmackDown just again for that depth. And then they were also the team that knocked off Gable and Jordan for the belt, so I think they can continue to have some good matches and help SmackDown develop that brand.
I agree that they need a dancing partner. I don't think their Revival's coming up anytime soon. I think you need to keep them in NXT because they're now the standard bearer in their tag division. I think the team that will be influential in making both Jordan and Gable, and American Alpha, I should say, and the SmackDown tag division will ultimately be the Usos. I know one of them is out with an injury right now, but they're going to be the guys who can get good matches out of everybody and also train some of the younger guys. And so I would tell you to expect a lot of good matches between American Alpha and the Usos. Like, I think that you're going to get interspersed feuds with some of the other teams, but I would expect to see them be dance partners several times over the next year or so.
Mm. And I just want to throw in, like, I'm fine with them crushing, or not crushing, but beating the Vaudevillains to start off with. Maybe they do get to, like, a Dudley's or something like that to give them more credibility. I'm fine, because I almost think about it like the Braun Strowman thing, sort of. Like, he comes out and crushes one team, and then I'm sure he's going to build up to it. American Alpha is the future of SmackDown tag teams right now, so I'm fine with the slow build as to establishing their credibility, personally. And like Mike was alluding to earlier, the possible introduction of new titles onto the brand could be very helpful for them. And it looks like there's been a bit of a rumor as far as there's going to be some new titles introduced. Now, I know particularly we talked about it with Pavan. He was the one that initiated the conversation. But if you have anything you want to say about it, can you tell us a little bit about the titles, Pavan, of what you know?
So what's floating around is Daniel Bryan did a couple interviews this week and basically all but confirmed that they are planning on adding a set of tag team titles and a women's title, which will obviously help give them something to be fighting for. Do you have some weird feedback going on right now? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm just hearing a lot of feedback, so I wanted to make sure it wasn't messing everything up. So I'll just keep going. Basically, the introduction of some titles, I think that Mike has been pretty steadfast the last couple of weeks talking about, with both the tag teams and the women needing something to feud over. It sounds like they will come about right after SummerSlam, which I think is perfect timing because it lets you build into SummerSlam. But then as soon as that ends, you have immediate, we need to make some champions, get some tournaments going on, however they want to do it, but make some things matter very quickly. And I think, so if you recall when we had this conversation about multiple world titles, I was the one who was very against it. But I think that this gives them a unique opportunity to do something that they always have talked about and wanted to do, but never been able to pull off. And so initially my thought was to do this at WrestleMania, but I think that the Royal Rumble and some other things maybe ruin this. But I want them to really seriously think about making Battleground or another pay-per-view a true kind of Wrestle Kingdom type event where you get the champion versus championship matches between the two brands, and really, like, you keep everybody separate and really tell this story, and then let that one night be that night for brand supremacy warfare, and kind of get to do some of the things that New Japan gets to do in terms of bringing in superstars from all over the world and kind of getting those matchups. And by keeping the brands separate, you make it even more special. So to use the women's division as this example, you give, let's say Sasha carries the title until whenever this is, and you have Becky Lynch go on a tear. And so you kind of, as fans, we're always naturally like, well, who would we want to see win? How would you position this? And so then you get to tell this story. So I think that it's something really cool if they can do, and it's so perfect. It so perfectly could work. They just need to pull the trigger on it eventually.
I agree with that 100%. I would say, yeah, because, like, you know, like you said, I've been steadfast because to me, like I said, like, you have to make, like the fans get invested when the matches matter. And right now, like, on SmackDown, like, some of the matches, they really just don't matter. They're just, like, matches. Like if I want to watch a match to have a match, I'm going to go watch TNA, you know?
That's a pretty bold statement.
I mean, if you just want to see that happen,
if I just want to watch wrestling for the sake of wrestling, I'm going to turn on ROH or New Japan. It will not be TNA.
well,
if I want to watch WWE stars from 2007, then I'm going to turn on TNA.
Well, I was getting ready to say that was a shot at TNA because I'm just saying, like, nothing that they do matters. New Japan and ROH, they actually matter.
Here's the thing: we like to joke about people not wanting to come on and do this show eventually if it ever gets popular. We're not worried.
I'm not concerned about Dixie Carter, okay? She better be worried about paying the energy, okay? That's what she need to be concerned with.
Whatever he goes by, Matt Hardy, go ahead and delete me right now, bro.
Brother Nero, I'm gonna lay some coke on the floor, and then you can come and talk on our show.
I can't deal with that. Oh my god. Okay, well, okay. The introductions of the new titles is definitely going to be a change for the two brands. I mean, it's going to be good because I guess it helps establish credibility between the two. But I wonder if there's going to be ever any kind of like, I don't know, kind of like interleague play sort of situation where you have them eventually either contend for like the ultimate prize or something, like years down the line probably. But I like it for the sake of establishing credibility. But for like tag teams, I get it. But for SmackDown, it's gonna be hard for the women's title right now. It's just, I mean, based off of what they have currently, development-wise, it like for me the obvious choice is Becky Lynch. But then you have like, where the hell's Paige? Like,
She's hurt.
Like, is she hurt? Because I know she was pulled
her
from
mom
tours.
confirmed it today on Twitter. I don't know anything about the injury exactly, but I do think she's hurt right now. I do think that there's also some level of. I feel like she's been in the doghouse for a while with them for some reason.
Yeah.
And that's more along what I mean. Not even just recent. I mean, she's been out of it ever since the whole Divas Revolution announcement.
Well,
It's not her house anymore.
No, it is not. She has missed the mortgage payments on that one.
Oh my gosh. She's evicted.
Well, I was getting ready to
The
say,
bubble
bro,
burst.
Yeah, I know. But I was getting ready to say, like, if you put the belt on Becky Balboa, which I think is the good idea. I think the because we've already seen Natalia, and I think that's a little bit played out. But like, I think like until perhaps Nikki Bella comes back, I think you can get some good matches out of Becky and like Naomi, and I feel like there's someone else there that I'm forgetting.
I mean, I think Alexa Bliss could give her like.
Yeah.
There are people like I'm not worried about either of the brands in terms of their divisions, and like I'm usually somebody who argues against more titles because I do think that you can make the case that it invalidates things a bit. But all of the divisions to me have enough talent to work. And so, and they're just going to keep adding talent, and so I think everything is fine. I think you're right that Becky makes the most sense to position as the face of the SmackDown women's brand, but she's going to have enough dance partners.
Yeah, eventually. I think eventually. Right now, it's very up in the air. I mean, it seems like it should be building up to Eva Marie and Becky Lynch to start out with at least, but hopefully in that time they don't waste it with some of the NXT talent they called up. But I like it for the sake of building credibility for that lesser talent pool, in my opinion.
I mean, honestly, if they want to start it off with a bang and get a lot of people to get very heated, they could give the belt to Eva to start off with, because people will like. This is one of those things where I think people forget that you're being worked. The amount of people who hate Eva and like will for no good reason other than just, I guess, what she personifies. She's one of the best heels on SmackDown, and she barely has to do anything.
She literally didn't do anything, and she got people mad. Like, she got people freaking out on the internet saying, "What the hell was that? The match didn't even start. That's ridiculous." But yeah, it's to generate conversation, because a lot of people right away, of course, they do the first thing that they do, which is, be an idiot and go, "Yeah, well, you know what? Maybe she should just be done with it. I'd rather see you in a porno anyway." And stuff like it's like it's ridiculous, and obviously people throw a bunch of shade at her, but that's what she wants, so that's great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but okay, so I want to try to move away from the belts, because now that we know that those are pretty much all but confirmed, pretty much that they're going to be coming to SmackDown. There are one or two other things that happened throughout the night. One we can cover quickly. The other one we can talk about probably a little bit more. First one is we talked about how Randy Orton invaded Raw on Monday night and ended up giving him an RKO out of nowhere, giving Lesnar an RKO. And then the favor was returned during the match with Fandango, is Lesnar comes out in F5's Randy Orton on SmackDown. I was particularly a big fan of this. I thought it was definitely coming. I thought it was telegraphed once Randy Orton invaded Raw that Lesnar had to pop up on SmackDown, which is good. I like it. It helps build the feud up a bit more. We already talked about the credibility of facing up against Fandango in the first place. Any differing opinions on this? Do you think they needed to do it, or do you think it was something that it really wasn't all that necessary?
Pavin?
I mean, I think that they needed to. I think that they even alluded to it at the end of Raw, where it was like, the Beast is going to come to SmackDown. I think something along those lines was said. I think that they need to interact. I think it also gives a little bump to SmackDown in terms of, like, this guy's going to appear, and we know that, like, Lesnar is a draw, and so I think they had to do it. I don't have much else to add. The only thing about this is where, like, we still have, I think, 2 or 3 weeks to SummerSlam. I don't really know what else you do with them until then, but, like, I think that this works. I think the only other thing that they might be able to get some mileage out of is sending Heyman to interact with Orton, because that always works well. But overall, I was very happy with it.
Well, yeah, I was going to say the only issue I had with it was like the security was weak, man. I mean, they literally just stood there and let Lesnar hop over the guardrail and like F5 like Orton. So I was like, all right, like to me, if you're gonna have security, at least have like Lesnar like mow down security, like go on a tear and then just destroy Orton. But that was my thing.
See, I almost think that it might be more realistic to do what they did, because, like, I don't really care who your security is. Like, it's not like they have, like, weapons or anything on them. And so if I'm a security guard and Brock Lesnar's charging me, I'm going to be like, I'm just going to go ahead. The Viper is over there. I'm just going to stand here and, like, maybe if, like, 3 other people...
They're paid to do a job.
Yeah. Yes, and they were paid to actually let him run by him. But regardless, like, if you're really thinking about this from a real standpoint, like I'm saying, I'm not going to get anywhere near Brock Lesnar until 3 other guys have jumped on him and maybe have maced him, because, like, he's the ultimate fighting machine.
He would hit me. I'd be like, hit me so then I can sue you for all your money.
You know, I'm going to possibly get weird for a second, but how great would it be to get an F5 from Brock Lesnar?
He did a video of that. Like, there was that kid who, like, did a bunch of wrestling moves onto his girlfriend into the pool, and so then they did the Heyman hustle where he went out and found the kid and, like, F5'd him into the pool. It's worth watching, if nothing else. And Heyman actually swears on the video, so it's kind of fun.
No,
Batista's in it, too.
I've seen it, and like that's where it feels weird because of how much I'm pushing this, but like I would pay money to get F5'd by Brock Lesnar, or like get stunnered by like Stone Cold. Like that's an experience. You say I got Stone Cold stunner, just like Triple H or Shawn Michaels. That'd be thrilling. But
so,
sorry.
Coming next week to this podcast is Kevin's journey in psychotherapy.
It's been a long road.
Tell me, Kevin, what do you see when I hold up this picture?
Pain, and I like it.
I was expecting something about Jon Snow.
Oh, God.
No, that's a whole different thing. That's a different channel of mine. Okay, so we got that out of the way. They're helping build up that feud, which is great. I think it's going well, and I think we're kind of all in agreement. But we're going to wrap it up around probably, I mean, the 2 biggest stars on the brand. I guess not counting Orton, even though I still think these are 2 of the biggest ones. We have AJ facing off against Cena in a great night, which is the number 2, or, well, I guess the second great promo of the night, which was AJ Styles. I am someone that I need to watch a lot of him before he got to WWE. Truth, like I've seen clips and stuff, but I didn't get to watch him on a regular basis. Now that I've been watching him here on WWE programming, I was like, he's great to watch, kind of like Ziggler. Great to watch. Love his moves. Love his special signature moves. But I hate him on the mic. I was like, you're so average. It's sickening. I don't think your theme music fits you. I don't think anything fits you. And then when he goes out and delivers the promo that he did with the tagline that he does, which my favorite thing is beating up John Cena, I was like, this is so great, and that's what I'm expecting. That's why you deserve that pop at the Royal Rumble when you entered. I was a huge fan, loved it, and even Cena coming back at him was great too. But like I expected, I know Cena can perform. AJ knocked it out of the park. What do you think, Pubbin?
I gotta be honest. When you and I texted about what do you say?
Oh, are you gonna make me mad? What are you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna say that honestly, texting you about AJ Styles makes me mad because like you are so unfair to him. Like you've barely seen anything that he's done, and like I don't mean describing, like I don't mean comparing AJ to Ziggler as an insult because they're both great, but like Ziggler's had a mass marketing machine behind him for 7 years. AJ Styles was over in the Indies. He was with TNA, which clearly we've talked about is not a company that knows what it's doing.
Yeah.
And so, like, the fact that he's even on this level is a testament to him. And so there are times when I want to jump through my phone and smack you because, like, the AJ Styles that delivered on Tuesday is the AJ Styles that is always there. Like, yes, you can
except for since he entered the WWE.
That's because they haven't given him the opportunity to shine, Kevin. You just need to get out of the way.
Yeah.
Listen, I think anytime you're on the microphone, you have the opportunity to shine, and he hasn't done it.
Yeah. I was going to say the thing that kind of like hurt, well, not hurt, but like what they did with AJ was the reason why you didn't see those type of promos is because he wasn't like when he first came, they had him as a face. So like when AJ was doing what he was doing, he was cutting those promos when he was a heel. So Kevin, I would say for you, I want you to go back and watch like AJ back in Fortune, like on that whole run. Like AJ was like he was doing those type of promos in that group. He's capable of that. Like again, like is he Michaels of the Rock? No, but like Puffin would say it, he's very serviceable. He can deliver great promos when he's given the opportunity to do so. And I love the dig at TNA that he did. Oh, there's no smart people in Nashville. Trust me, I know. Yeah. That was great. That Dixie was great.
Freaking out. And again, I'm getting to a calm voice because after I get my frustration out, I get to a calm voice.
Well, hold on. But let's go ahead and ruin that right now. AJ doesn't steal the show. He's phenomenal all the freaking time, Kevin. So you just need to deal with it.
That's just so wrong, though. I mean, his performance is great, but it's not. It's like I said before. Anytime you're on the mic, you have the opportunity to do a great thing. And when Mike just said that, like Puffin said, is he's serviceable. I don't want a top talent to be serviceable. I want him to be very good or good. And I never thought he was particularly that good while he's being like. I don't want to make an excuse for a top talent who's supposed to be at least considered good on the mic.
Excuse me.
To not be able to do it if he's not a heel.
One of your favorite wrestlers of the Attitude Era was Goldberg, so sit the hell down.
Yo, I was like 10 years old. I liked him because he beat everybody. I also thought that Val Venus really got his penis chopped off.
Well, your naivete withstanding. It would take Goldberg 7 years in Dusty Rhodes' promo class to get to serviceable on the mic.
Yo, I'm not saying he was any good at promos. I never said that. I just said when I was a kid, I liked Goldberg a whole lot.
Yes,
I don't know what to tell you.
But the argument that I'm making is that to be a top guy in the industry, you don't always have to be great at promos.
Yeah,
clearly.
Goldberg's a great example of that. But the other piece is, and this is what Mike and I keep saying, is that give AJ Styles the ball, step back, and watch him deliver.
Exactly. Yeah.
But, like, are you insinuating that the ball's been taken from him up until this point?
He's never been given the ball. That's the thing. They never really gave him the ball.
Is the ball the microphone, or is it his own script? What are you saying?
It's a combination of both. So again, when he first came in there, right? Like he was a face. So then when they did the whole heel turn with the club, he still didn't really get to cut the kind of promos he wanted on Cena because the main focus on Raw was basically everything else. You know what I'm saying? Now that he's on SmackDown, we can say, AJ, carry this for a little bit, and he's going to deliver. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like I'm trying to think of somebody from the NFL. So like when you have somebody who like they haven't been the opportunity to basically like either start or be the quarterback, and then when you give them the chance to do it, like and then like they make the Pro Bowl, it's like, okay, there it was. Well, yeah, because the quarterback wasn't throwing them the ball, or they never got the opportunity to actually shine. You got to give AJ some time to actually show who he is. Like I said in the text thing, he's only been here 6 months.
AJ Styles is Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, that's
No,
what I'm
no, I will not accept that comparison. You all just
No.
reamed me out for not knowing the extensive body of work that he had before the WWE, and now you're going to tell me that he's only been in the company for 6 months, so how could you expect anything from him? And that he's like just coming out of nowhere. He's established as a guy.
No. Yeah, no. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying he's only been in the company 6 months, and what I'm saying is they haven't given him the opportunity to run with it in 6 months. That's
Why
what
wouldn't
I'm
they
saying.
give it to a guy they know was a top star in several other organizations?
Because he wasn't going to be positioned like this. This is not a new thing. Whenever when WWE brings in people that is not their creation, they don't just float them to the top. You have to earn it. Like it was pretty well established that AJ Styles was coming in to be the top of the mid card, and then what happened is there were some injuries, and then he got the reaction he did at the Royal Rumble and everywhere else. And all of a sudden they're like, we can make money off this guy. And now all of a sudden he's seen as one of the top two guys on one of the brands. And so this just proves he is ready to be there.
Okay, I'm gonna throw out a thought here.
Oh dear.
Now you say this is what they do. This is what the WWE does. Okay, what was the last guy in the wrestling industry that they signed that had the status and the body of work that AJ Styles had that they introduced into the company?
Who had never been there before, basically?
Yeah, who's the last one they brought in? Because my argument, just so I don't make it as loaded, because my argument is basically anyone they would have brought in before that may have been popular in like New Japan or something like that, wasn't widely known as the best person not in the WWE, and if they weren't, I mean, AJ Styles' case, no one really knew why he wouldn't come back in. Because, I mean, technically AJ Styles was in the WWE for like 5 seconds.
Yes, well, he was with them for like, he was with WCW, he came over when WWE bought them, but he was immediately released, and he admits rightly so. Because he
we won't really even count. Randomly, it just popped in my head.
You wanted to present that you knew a fact.
No, actually, I was just thinking about it as I'm talking because my brain works point to point to point. It's not seamless at all. So that's kind of what I'm getting to. I guess I asked a rhetorical question, which is, if you're bringing in a guy who's widely known as the biggest free agent, and he's like a massive, like, let's compare it to the NFL. It's like if, well, he's retired now, but let's say Brady goes onto the market. You're signing Brady.
But you can't. This is the same thing we argued before. You can't compare this to sports because there's not. It's apples and oranges. The example I'll give to you is somebody who was brought in very hyped, not really connected with the WWE audience, is Sin Cara. He had a lot of fanfare coming in, and like was very notable within the lucha libre market. And they tried to invest in him, and he dropped the ball hard. So much so that the original Sin Cara is not with the company anymore. And so, like,
the brand new botch-free Sin Cara.
Indeed, and a tougher Sin Cara, getting into fistfights with guys from the 1920s.
You know what the new Sin Cara's favorite thing to do is? Beat up Gotch.
With the lights on in the ring.
Go ahead, Pubin. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, honestly, like, I don't mean like to belabor the point, but where I am with this is that AJ Styles is a 5-tool guy, and so he's finally getting the opportunity to do the things you want. And I know that we want to talk about Daniel Bryan and the whole promo and everything with it, so I don't want to stay on it too long. But the more opportunities that AJ Styles is given to do this, he will continue to do amazing things. And I mean, it's only a matter of time till he's the champion on SmackDown. If anything, I think he's the next guy on the clock.
Absolutely.
All right, that's fair. I'm just going to say the last statement because I'm technically the moderator on this one. All I'm trying to get across, as I am the competitor of you two in this debate, is that I don't want to give a guy who's super talented and has a great body of work that everyone already knew about before he got signed a free pass on not being able to bring it to the mic like he did last night. That's my problem. But that's okay. In the future, it looks like he will be bringing it, which is great. And I'm looking forward to it.
Here's where I am with this. In 40
Of course.
In 40 years, when I go back and listen to all the things that you're right about, I want you to come back to this moment and realize that Mike and I were right. And AJ
About
Styles
what?
will have been a 3-time champion, and you will be like, why did I ever doubt his abilities on the mic, in the ring, beating
I know,
up
I
John
know.
Cena?
I literally just said that it looks like he's going to continue it on moving forward. I'm just saying I haven't seen it since he stepped into the company, and I'm arguing that he has been given opportunity to possibly make more of it. You all disagree with me. That's where we're at.
And what I'm saying is that once he proves it, you need to acknowledge it.
He
There
proved
you
it
go.
last night.
Okay,
He'll
then.
prove it all the time.
Exactly. Continue to prove it. That's been my whole argument this whole time. I feel like you're missing
No,
this.
no. What I'm saying is he will continue. But anyway, let's go
Yes.
on.
All right. Oh, this is
Let's
so
get
juicy.
Evan off the island.
I've never yelled so loudly at Puvin. I've known him for years. This is the greatest. Okay, so now going along with that, we're not going to talk about Super Cena and how his retorts, or him going back and forth with Styles as far as it being a quality promo, but we do want to talk about the response, kind of a last note, which actually kind of, in a way, hits home with us in our professional careers, and also as a genuine wrestling fan who likes hearing about shoot interviews, where Daniel Bryan ends up getting asked about what he thought about the exchange, and at one point, from what I gathered from it, and you all can, jump in and correct me if there's something else you heard, was Bryan was trying to get across, particularly the part when Cena said, I only want to wrestle for the WWE for the rest of my life, and all that kind of stuff. I'm here, basically, I've been here. And it seemed like he was, in a way, kind of insulted by the privilege that was being exuded from that statement. And he's like, well, the thing is, I got cut twice from the WWE. I was fired twice, and then you have to go work for another company. And in Cena's mind, that's just not a thing. There's no chance I'm ever going anywhere, so I can say firmly that I'm going to be staying. And there was some disgust that was thrown in there. So, okay, Mike, you got something to say.
I do. I'm jumping in. Okay. See, now this has always been my issue with John Cena, especially since he's been positioned to be like the man. He tends to forget, like CM Punk told him, he is the New York Yankees. Okay. He forgets that, he where he is, he has the machine behind him, okay? So you can't say those type of things to AJ because AJ had a different path to success that you did, okay? So I thought the promo was good, but then when he derailed by saying that, I thought it was very, very off base because again, it is very easy to say those type of things when you have stupid movies that have been backed by Vince McMahon versus someone who like AJ who literally had to go all the way over to Japan to take care of his family, and that's something, Cena, that you never really had to do.
Mm-hmm. I agree, because that is kind of sickening. It's really pompous on Cena's part. I know he's speaking as the character Cena, maybe not necessarily the person, but it did feel very real between the two. So what do you think, Puvin?
Yeah, I mean, it's not all that new, and I'll go ahead and own the fact that while I'm not a huge Cena supporter, I've never had the level of disdain for Cena that the majority of the audience has had over periods of time. But this is not a new thing. One of the few major issues I do tend to have with him occasionally is he's always kind of positioned himself in a place where he takes shot at independent wrestlers, and even on some of the DVDs and things, some of the things he says is a little bit demeaning. And so I think that hearing Daniel Bryan fire up in the way that he did about the whole, we got to take care of our families. The other piece is in a way, if anything, it's credibility to guys like Bryan and AJ Styles, because for Cena to say I'm only gonna go wrestle at WWE, the company with the most resources, the most attention, for some of the other guys who and Punk's the great example who I think started this trend of guys who live it, breathe it, and love it. They'll do it in the Tokyo Dome, or they'll do it in the Veterans Hall in front of 45 people because it's the art form. They love it. They want it. They do it. And so, in anything, it comes across as elitist. It comes across as I'm too good for these things. And like, I think what he was trying to say was that like AJ doesn't have any loyalty to kind of play off of his traditional hustle, loyalty, and respect. But if you really boil it down, it really...
He did hustle his ass to get where he got, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, I know what he was trying to do in positioning it, but, like, this is one of those times where it backfired.
Yeah,
and
he failed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was ready to say, because, like you were saying, like, I have more respect for the wrestlers like Finn, like Brian, like AJ, like you were saying. They did everything they had to do to get where they were, to put on high quality matches, okay? Cena, Cena was basically like like this is an issue we're seeing even in our country today. Cena's been privileged. Let's just say what it is. He's a privileged individual. He doesn't understand that struggle because he's never had to see through that lens. So like I said, it's real easy to cut that type of thing in that promo when that hasn't been your experience. So what he should do is he should apologize. Like, that's not how I intended to come across. And then I don't know, he needs to do like something, because again, he's the New York Yankee.
Well, I mean, I think he will not necessarily apologize, but I think he'll reposition what he was trying to get across.
Yeah, he needs to do something.
And let's be honest, I very much see AJ Styles winning at SummerSlam. That's another one that I feel fairly confident about.
I hope so.
I think he needs to, yeah.
SummerSlam seems to have been traditionally the pay-per-view where John Cena puts over the up-and-coming guy, with the Daniel Bryan case as well. The other piece is, and like, I know that you kind of took it to the privileged place, and I get where you were coming from with it. The piece that I feel a little uncomfortable with is we also have to acknowledge that John Cena has worked very hard as well. And that's not to dispute any of the things that you were saying or discount the fact that it was still kind of an asinine thing for him to say. John Cena has worked very hard for his spot as well. But I think that the real thing for me is, like, I don't even know. It's hard for me to make this case, but, like, if you can put on a Royal Rumble quality main event match at the Royal Rumble or in Tuscaloosa in the bingo hall, you still have the same ability. And so, like, I can get the whole I've drawn more than you. I know that that's really what wrestling boils down to in a lot of ways, but it just did not come across with him coming off well. And kudos to Daniel Bryan for helping add fuel to the fire of a match that everybody wanted to see anyways, but now adding that additional perspective of, AJ might have even more of a reason to knock off Cena's block.
Well, I was going to say something like it kind of reminds me of your favorite wrestler. So, like, for years, right, like, people have been told, like, if you want to be the champ, you got to be like this 6'5" guy. You need to be like two whatever it is. And along comes Shawn Michaels, who is not that. So Shawn Michaels had to work twice as hard as everybody else to try to legitimize, like, hey, like, I need to be given that same opportunity too. So that's a little bit what it kind of reminds me of.
Well, and so this is going to be like Kevin's best week ever, and I can't believe I'm about to do this.
Yeah.
But if you're going to acknowledge Michaels in that capacity, you honestly have to. You acknowledge that Bret Hart was the one who broke that door first.
Yeah, baby.
But I'm never going to not acknowledge the fact that Bret was great, but he was never Shawn Michaels.
That's Bret Hart. Shawn Michaels was never nearly as good as Shawn Michaels thinks he was.
That's because Bret Hart thinks that he can do nuclear physics if he asks Bret Hart.
Yo, Bret Hart can. You don't know.
God. So we've had our requisite Shawn Michaels mentions for the show. So I'll move away from
Well, that's because we talked about Dolph Ziggler for a while. I'm sorry. I even though he's one of my favorites and on the way to being my favorite again, I gotta take jabs at that. How he steals identities. It's pretty awful.
No, but I mean, I think I don't know what else there is to say about this. I think AJ is showing why he was the number 2 pick for SmackDown.
Absolutely. He was picking
I,
before
I
Cena, yeah.
I agree, and particularly as far as the shooting goes, I really appreciate that one of the GMs for each of the brands ended up doing some just raw emotional appeal about something that's very real. You know, Mick Foley talks about Sasha Banks winning the title in a very serious fashion. And then we have Dan O'Brien talking about John Cena's promo, and that was just really cool. Like, I felt connected to both in that way. So that's a great thing that came out of this week.
Well, and that I think is something, and I know that we are way over on time, but I feel like we have to touch on it, is that this is exactly how the GMs and the ownership should be positioned. It's not about seeing them get a comeuppance. It's not about having them be the ones who have to get the payoff. It's about maximizing your talent. And so we've talked about Daniel Bryan. If anybody hasn't read the post about Sasha Banks from Mick Foley, go read it. I happened to
It's
I
really
read
long.
it. Yeah, I read it the other day at work, and so I'm lucky enough to work with my partner, who's not a wrestling fan, but will occasionally indulge me. And so I happened to send it to her, and like after reading it, she even admitted to tearing up because one of the things that I think that Mick Foley is so great about is capturing the human experience, but particularly when it comes to wrestling and what it is to be a fan. And like, if you are a wrestling fan, I defy you to read it and not tear up. But to Kevin's point, it very much added to what was already a great moment, and
Absolutely.
added ambiance, added spirit, added the fact that this is something that fans can get behind, and the boys in the back were just as moved by to see Sasha Banks capture her lifelong dream.
Well, yeah, I was going to
Absolutely.
say like the thing said, like everybody was generally happy for her because we all know I was ecstatic the entire week.
Mr. Banks.
That's right, man. I
Mr.
was like,
Banks speaking up.
I was going to say, like, I legit haven't felt that happy with somebody winning since the Steelers won the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? It was a great moment.
I haven't been that happy since the time Philadelphia won.
Since the Phillies won in 2008. There you go.
Oh yeah. We won. Yeah, we won stuff. We win things. That's right.
There you go.
All right. So you know what? We're gonna wrap it up at that point. We covered pretty much everything from this past week. We did go over time, but you know what? I don't think that's that big of a deal, considering that just means there's more for you all to listen to if you'd like. And I particularly enjoyed because there was a few heated moments, just like both of the brands this past week. But I think it was some good quality conversation between us three in the three-man power trip. That's going to do it for this podcast episode. Thanks so much for listening. As always, we'll be back next week and next Wednesday night where we're going to review the brands once again and any other wrestling news that may possibly pop up. I'm going to say good night to you folks from Kevin here, and have my other buddies sign off as well.
Do not forget to like, subscribe, and share. We want to see this thing grow.
And I would say, two things. I would say when it comes to Sasha, you can bank on it and drink it in, bro. Drink it in.
Don't forget to be phenomenal, Kevin.
You can't even see me right now.
And AJ doesn't need to see John Cena.
Hashtag beat up John Cena.
Hashtag Kevin's wrong.
Good night, everybody.